You've clearly had an impressive career leading technology and engineering teams across several organizations. Nobody really starts their career as a technology leader, and you've spoken about almost being a bit of a hesitant starter as a technology leader when you took that on. So how did you find your way to it? I'd love you to talk a little bit about your background and what drew you into the world of tech leadership.
I started out as a hardware hacker as a kid. So I built my first computer from broken parts from the factory my dad worked at, and I was really lucky. I was part of a school project where we built part of South Africa's first satellite that the local university was building when I was a teenager. So my advice to parents is don't let your kids do anything cool when they're young. I soldered something that went into space when I was 16. It's all been downhill since then. But so tech was always just of interest to me. My dad's a mechanical engineer, my mum's an accountant. Numbers and machines never scared me. What would happen quite often is my dad would take things apart and leave them around the house intending to fix them, and if he didn't get to them quickly enough, then I would. And so I started off as this sort of hardware hacking kiddo, and then realized that the software was really interesting, and so I went and studied computer science in the UK. And then I got a job at Procter & Gamble and spent the first 10 years of my career there. And P&G was a fantastic place to develop as a leader. They really invested in people, and the primary thing they were hiring for was leadership potential. And so it was sort of a done deal that I would move into leadership at some point. But I did move into management at a very early age. I was in my early 20s, and my first two direct reports were older than my dad, which I just imagined his reaction to that. And so I had a very interesting start to being a manager, certainly. And one of the things you'll have heard me speak about is I kind of regret not staying on the IC path longer. I wish I'd gotten to be a staff engineer or a principal engineer before moving into management, but I actually moved very swiftly and very early in my career into these sort of management and leadership roles. But I remember just feeling like I had to do it because I'm very ambitious, and that was the way to develop and to grow, and then refusing to be bad at it. I'd had a couple of not great managers and not had a wonderful experience because of that, and I was like, okay, if I have to do this, then I'm going to have to figure out how to be good at it. And so went and found a load of research and reading to do, and sort of brute forced my way through becoming a decent manager.
And you started a sabbatical just now.
Yeah.
Congratulations. I think
Thank you.
it's such an important thing to take time away from your career. So as you reflect back on your most recent role at Pleo, what's one thing that you feel most proud of? And what's one thing that you feel most relieved to take a break from?
So I'm really, really proud of the team that we built and the culture we built there. It's a really kind, caring culture, but not. We had a whole conversation at one point about how kind and nice are not the same thing. You can be kind, and actually being nice is sometimes very unkind. Not giving people the feedback they need, not giving people the truth can be very unkind. And so I really loved the culture we built, but also the results we delivered. We didn't grow the team. It's my first non-scaling CTO role that I've had. The team stayed around the same size, around 250, the whole way through. But by the end, we're delivering 4 times as much work, 40% faster than when I joined. So I'm just really proud of that improvement in productivity and the culture we built along the way. The thing I'm relieved to not have on my mind every day is we were moving away from a monolith to microservices, and not having to worry about that monolith anymore is quite nice. It's the first time I've not been on call in my entire career, except for the last sabbatical I took back in 2010, and so it's very weird not to be on a rota, but very nice to have. No risk of being woken up in the middle of the night because of an incident.
So first question, AI and agents are a complete Wild West right now. Regulation is all over the place. There's no standards body to build consensus around compliance or security. There are competing models of what AI safety should look like, or in some cases, none at all, depending on the company who's actually building the model. How is this lack of governance working when it comes to financial services AI adoption? What do you see out there?
So I think we see a really wide range of stages that companies are at, and a very interesting engagement from the regulators as well. So like the FCA is and recently had a program where you could even get compute access to do different sort of experimental AI feature development. That there was a program that people could apply to try and get that. And on the one hand, they're encouraging AI usage through programs like that, but then on the other hand, when you talk with the supervisory teams, they're not always very comfortable because it is this very new thing that's moving extraordinarily fast. And so I do think that we're in, like you say, the Wild West a little bit. And I think that this team's all over trying to navigate that. I think we've got to try to be, as always, secure and compliant and to look after our customers at the end of the day. But we don't want to withhold the benefits of AI from those same customers. And so I think that's the sort of line that we're trying to walk. Both us and the regulators, because ultimately the regulators want the best thing for customers too. That's why they're there. That's why a lot of regulation exists, is to protect companies and individuals. But I think we're absolutely still in that learning phase of trying to figure out how everything fits together.
If I was a technology leader today in finance, and maybe I've not been able to hop on the bandwagon, maybe that's a limitation of my organization, or I've had other priorities. In order to not be left behind, where would you suggest I start?
So there was a fantastic talk at LDX3 earlier this year by Birgitte Buchler, who is a distinguished engineer at ThoughtWorks. Or maybe a principal engineer. She's an extraordinarily senior engineer at ThoughtWorks, and her job for the last 2.5 years has just been to figure out how AI will change the art of software delivery and the science of software delivery. And she did a fantastic talk, as I say, at LDX3 that was basically what's the state of the art right now. That was in June, and she would say things have changed since then, but I think it's a really good grounding in what's working, what's not, what's challenging, and where we're seeing the biggest advances. And so I'd strongly recommend people find that talk and go watch it. And then the other person who's absolutely worth following if you want to go more in detail is Simon Willison, the author of Dataset. He's one of the original creators of Django web framework. And he is writing absolutely prodigiously about AI. He's gone really deep and broad on what the opportunities are. If I want to know the exact up to the minute, what are the best models right now, what are the most interesting things to use, it's Simon who I go and look at what he's writing about. It's got to the point he blogs, as I say, very prolifically, and he blogs so much that now there's a pay for newsletter, which is the summary version that you can pay for, a monthly newsletter where all the content's free, but the thing you're paying for is the summarization.
Right.
So I'm subscribed to that monthly newsletter because I really appreciate having someone summarizing what the state of the art is. And so that's the other person I'd recommend following.